And welcome to the last week of this course, week 7. So this week we're going to be focusing on trauma-informed care and how to create and institute organizational change while being aware of traumatic experiences. And Sandra Bloom, who's actually local from Drexel University, created the sanctuary model. And there's a reading about that, which, is very well known, utilized in a lot of different settings, but particularly within the educational setting, to ensure that children in particular are not traumatized or re-traumatized in that setting. Being trauma informed means having sensitivity to the reality of traumatic experiences. And it can be done in a very small shift with the way a question is asked, or, instead of asking, what's wrong with you? If there are behavioral issues or questions about what someone has gone through or is going through, instead of asking what's wrong with you, you can ask what happened to you. This simple change in wording can shift the implication of blame and shame to one of understanding and collaboration and partnership. And so there are a number of different tools that have been created through the sanctuary model to better understand how to create a trauma-informed culture. And so I'll be asking you to reflect on that this week. And then we'll be going back to the Birdie book on effectively managing and leading human service organizations, how to humanize an organization, managing ethical dilemmas that might come up, and just elevating the use of trauma-informed principles and practices in various care settings. There's 2 discussions for week 7. One is on reflecting on trauma-informed care, so please take a look at the readings. There's a video that I'm asking you to watch in the first discussion. It's 38 minutes about implementing trauma-informed care in an organization. And I'd like you to jot down just 2 principles of trauma-informed care that are mentioned in the video, and at least 2 examples of concrete steps that are featured in organizations that are implementing trauma-informed care. So 2 principles and 2 examples. And then I'd like you to watch 2 additional videos on children violence and trauma, innovations in juvenile justice, and then also the criminal justice system. So both of those videos represent organizations or practices that have adopted principles discussed in the first video. And so then you'll craft your discussion on that. What practices are being pursued by an organization or program featured in the videos that I've asked you to watch, and how are they consistent with what you know about trauma-informed or the sanctuary model approach. Be asking you to reflect on whether or not the organizations could be doing something differently or better to incorporate principles of trauma-informed care based on your experiences. And then thinking back to the Widener social work shared case of Anita and her family, how could applying a trauma-informed lens benefit Anita and her family, is something else that that you'll be reflecting on in this discussion. And then the second discussion for week 7 is on design practices and the importance of design. And so, if possible, we'll be asking you to take photos of the organization that was your focus. Because many of us are remote, if you are unable to take photos, would appreciate if you could try to find photos online or through social media if possible. Or you can simply just choose another setting where you work and live. And I'd like you to pay attention to the spaces. Are they particularly welcoming, restorative? Do they inspire hope? not only for you as a social worker working in those spaces, but also for your clients. And so, you know, if you're taking photos, please make sure that no one is in the photo. If someone will be in it, please ask their permission, and then take notes as to why you took that space in that photo, so you don't forget kind of how the space made you feel. Beyond identifying those specific areas to photograph or to identify, there are a number of reflection questions that I'd like you to think about this week as you upload those 2 photos, and they'll be framed around your experiences. So to the extent that you're able to reflect on these, what does the setting look, feel, and smell like? Makes a big difference in whether you feel welcomed, supported. What is the role and presence of nature in the setting? Is there a presence of nature at all? And how does that impact you? What are the types of relationships that take place within that setting? And how does the physical space impact these relationships? So are there places for people to sit and talk? How is the space kind of constructed to either help with social interactions or take away from them? What values do you think are being communicated through the design of the setting? And if there's anything that you could change so that it's experienced as more welcoming, what changes would you make? So I am looking forward to having you respond to those prompts and be thinking about the design of a space, trauma-informed principles, how things that we take for granted when you just walk into a room can actually, in some instances, inflict trauma on someone who has had a bad experience. And so you want to be very intentional, especially as social workers and those who work in human service organizations, to be welcoming and to help make clients especially feel like they belong there, and that they are going to be collaborated with and helped and supported. Great. Well, I am still grading and looking through your final papers. I'm really enjoying them. I want to thank you so much for your participation in this course. If there are any outstanding discussion posts, it is likely that I've already been in touch with you or will be very shortly, but really enjoyed having you in this class, and I'll be sure to send each of you a note as I normally do, but thank you so much.